Please welcome Dr. Willie J. Parker.
Wow. Good morning. It's nice to be back at this podium. About this time last year, I was here for the first time. And before I even get started, I just want to address something. Dr. Martin Luther King said the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenging controversy. I raised this issue because I don't know if many of you, some of you may not even know who Bruce Springsteen is, but he refers to himself as the boss. And this week, he pulled a boss move by pulling out of a concert in Greensboro, North Carolina, because of the anti-LGBTQ laws that are now in the books. I think Dr. Martin Luther King would have been proud of the boss, and he modeled for us the appropriate behavior, and let's follow suit. Let's make sure that the artists that we admire don't sign off and say, hey, I'm just an artist, I don't get involved, that's politics. If they can't stand up for the issues that are important, then maybe they don't deserve your support. Now let me start. I'm happy to be back here in Massachusetts, in chilly Massachusetts, at the CLPP conference. For somebody from Birmingham, Alabama, this is chill weather, but the chill that I feel in my bones this morning is offset by the warmth that I feel in my heart. And my heart is warmed by the energy, diversity, and brilliance that I see in this audience, the youthfulness of this conference, because I think that these are the necessary characteristics to transform our country and to bring about the change that needs to happen here, especially when we have people aspiring to the highest office in the land that are interested in building walls on our borders, discriminating against non-Caucasian Americans because their religion is Islam, and locking up abortion recipients or providers of abortion as criminals. And on this last point, I have but one thing to say with regard to someone locking me up for providing the care of abortion in the event that it becomes illegal. Here are my risks. Lock me up. Because I can say to you sincerely that this is the one time that I will willingly be another black man in jail, because I'd rather be in jail than free in a society that makes it acceptable for 1 in 3 under the age of 45 in this country for 1 in 3 people who need an abortion to become at risk for death simply because they decide to end a pregnancy. That's not the mark of a free society. That's the mark of fools. The Mahatma Gandhi said that we must be the change that we wish to see. That means that the change that is necessary to address the issues that we care about in this country is found in each of our mirrors. I know it is in my mirror when I think about the solution to the problem that 88% of people in this country who need an abortion live in a county with no abortion provider. That means that practically every person who needs an abortion has to travel long distances to get it, and that's pretty much the same deal for childbirth. I operate under the principle that to know is to become responsible. But there are many people in our country who know the plight of the poor, the plight of LGBTQ people, the plight of communities of color, and the plight of women, and they do nothing about it. Now, in order to do something about the plight of people, you have to wrestle with your conscience. And you have to lose that battle. And when you wrestle with your conscience and you lose, then the people who actually need you win, because that's when you will do something about what you see. Now, I personally lost that battle of conscience about 12 years ago while listening to a sermon by Dr. King when he described what made the Good Samaritan good. In that story, the person who stopped to help a traveler who had been mugged when no one else would stop to help was good, according to Dr. King, because that person reversed the question of concern and asked, what will happen to this person if I don't stop, as opposed to what will happen to me if I do? Now, that resonated deeply with me as a doctor who sees women on a regular basis who have unplanned, unwanted pregnancies or wanted but legally flawed ones. Like the Samaritan, I simply was not able to stand by and watch people suffer or die unnecessarily when it is possible to do a safe procedure like an abortion when that's what they need. So as you attend this conference today, the task before each of you is to first to know what the issues are and therefore to become responsible about doing something about them. You need to wrestle with your conscience and lose that battle so that then the people who actually need you can win, and because that's the only way you act. And finally, we need you to do something. You're young, and oftentimes people tell you that you're young as a means of telling you that you don't need to do anything, but that's no excuse. Dr. Martin Luther King said the time is always ripe to do right. Now, if you think that young people can't make a difference, in my home state of Alabama, in Birmingham, in this civil rights movement, there was a children's march that was the most effective way of defeating segregation in that city, and it therefore changed this nation. Elementary and high school kids who practiced civil disobedience went to jail in droves and changed this nation. Now, I saw an ad about 15 years ago that said that if Dr. King spent his 20s partying, and there's nothing wrong with getting your boogie on, he said if Dr. King spent his 20s partying, there would still be people in our society who might still be riding on the back of the bus. So the point is that no matter how old you are, it's time to do something. And right now, the major something that we need you to do in this country is to vote in November. Now, I want to make one small point about that, and then I'll sit. Now, my hunch is that the challenge for this audience is not deciding whether or not to vote Democratic or Republican. It's probably going to be deciding whether or not it's Hillary or Bernie. Now, I have my ear to the ground, and I hear a lot of love for both, but I'm also hearing some things that leave me unsettled, because I'm hearing some people say that if their candidate is not the nominee, that they won't vote. And that's a big concern for me, because if you don't vote, you're voting for candidates that, for me, will be unacceptable. Now, I want you to understand that voting is an activity of adults. And I'm not playing ageism. I'm saying that voting requires mature thinking. And so what I want you to do is to examine whether or not, if you are supporting Bernie, make sure that your Bernie love is not Hillary hate. And if you're supporting Hillary, make sure that you're not more committed to having the first woman president than you are at making sure that there's not a Republican in the White House. Because I can assure you that if Ted Cruz or Donald Trump ends up in the White House, we're all in trouble. So again, I'm not seeking to be partisan, but I'm just saying to you, like Jay-Z says, you got to get your mind right, mommy. You got to get your mind right, poppy. And you got to think about this thing the right way. So as I close, I say to you that in November, we need you to understand that if you fail to vote, you are voting against women, LGBTQ folks, against immigrants, and you're voting against people of color. So I'm asking you to do the right thing and to vote. I didn't tell you how to vote. I said vote and make sure that everybody around you votes. And I would need you to vote as if women's lives will depend on it, because they will. Thank you very, very much.